Here on Life's Biggest Questions, we often like to joke around and have fun. We'll talk about SCPs and fictional characters and interplanetary issues. These are big questions for sure, and it does the brain good to consider all sorts of far-out situations. However, today we're discussing a much more serious topic. What we're addressing has dangerous and destructive real-world implications and should not be taken lightly. Today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking a question that has been on the minds of a whole lot of people since the new year began. Who would win World War III? The answer might seem obvious to some, and many would simply consider the country with superior military might to be the favorite. However, wars are fought very differently today than they were in the past. In fact, waging war has changed dramatically even over the past couple of decades. And since World War II, the nuclear threat has loomed over the heads of all inhabitants of our planet. Even with measures to reduce nuclear armaments being put into effect in the past, the threat still remains. Before we get into the winners and losers of a global conflict, let's go over some recent events to put everything into context. In 1988, over 30 years ago, the United States of America and Russia ratified a Cold War nuclear missile pact, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. This pact banned all land-based ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and missile launchers with ranges of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. Over 2,600 missiles were eliminated, and the world could breathe a small sigh of relief knowing that the threat of nuclear annihilation was less than it used to be. Flash forward to February 2019, where the United States and Russia pulled out of this pact. United States President Donald Trump announced that he was withdrawing the United States from the treaty due to Russian non-compliance. The next day, Russia withdrew as well. Shortly thereafter, Iran announced its intentions to smash the strict uranium stockpile limit set under the Iran nuclear deal. Enriched uranium is a key component for nuclear weapons. In November, United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused Iran of preparing a rapid nuclear breakout. Then in late December, a rocket attack on an Iraqi military base killed a US contractor, prompting the United States military to carry out defensive strikes in Iraq and Syria, killing 25. After this, protesters and supporters of pro-Iranian paramilitary groups broke into the US embassy in Baghdad, setting parts of it on fire. President Trump blamed this attack on Iran. Soon after, on January 3rd, Iran's top-ranking General Qasem Soleimani was killed by an airstrike under orders from President Trump. Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei promised harsh revenge, jihad, and crushing vengeance on those responsible for Soleimani's death. Hearing this, President Trump warned that he would unleash $2 trillion worth of new military equipment if Iran targeted US military bases. The leaders of both countries are both promising disproportionate retaliation for any aggression, announcing that they have dozens of pre-established targets should anything happen. In classic modern military fashion, there is a highly publicized, mutually assured destruction. Both countries have been known to use a lot of rhetoric though, with less concrete action. Although the United States has had troops stationed in the Middle East for an indefinite amount of time, with plenty of aircraft patrolling the surrounding airspaces. This is a very complicated, multifaceted issue with a lot more going on than one could cover in one video. However, it is understandable why some people are fearing a third world war based on these events. The past few days have been rife with memes, mourning, and speculation as to what happens next. So now that we're all caught up, we should consider what World War III would look like in order to get a little closer to coming up with an idea of who the victor would be. War has indeed changed. There would be no real front lines to World War III. No trenches, no beach invasions, no strongholds. No, instead we'd be seeing a lot of long-range strikes using modern technology. Car bombs, drone strikes, information attacks, these are the weapons of a modern war. Both Iran and the United States have access to drones and would likely use them before sending any human troops in. The BBC's security correspondent Frank Gardner says that retaliation from Iran is more likely to come in the form of attacking Western targets in Iraq as well as other parts of the region. The possibility of Iran attacking points in North America is small. Regardless, if United States servicemen are killed in the region, disproportionate retaliation from President Trump is likely. A concerted effort to cause as much damage as possible in Iran would begin, resulting in all sorts of collateral damage. Innocent lives would be lost, as people just attempting to survive would be caught up in the crossfire. It's hard for a drone to tell the difference between aggressors and innocent civilians just living their lives. These meaningless deaths would not be taken lightly, and all sorts of people would be drawn into the tragedy. The more people that die in a situation like this, the more people want revenge for the deaths of their loved ones. It's a terribly destructive cycle, and as the saying goes, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Sustained fighting would also lead to the destruction of infrastructure. Sources of food, water, and other essential resources are often damaged in times of war, leading to other issues like famine and disease running rampant. The aftermath of this kind of damage lasts for a very long time, putting people in the region at major disadvantage. And this is just if both combatants decide to keep the war non-nuclear. If the nuclear option is chosen, then we're in for a whole lot worse. Following the withdrawals from nuclear treaties and the rolling back of denuclearization goals, the world is a lot more dangerous. The effects of one nuclear warhead can kill hundreds of thousands and send shockwaves through generations of people. Imagine what might happen if multiple warheads were fired off, and then more in retaliation to the first. It's a zero-sum game, there's no winning here. Even if you survive with more resources intact than the other guy, the world is still in a much worse place than before. Countless lives lost, for what? The imposition of power? Proof of one's willingness to fight? Hopefully it never comes to that. So, back to our original question, who would win? If we were to guess solely based on military spending, we would lean towards the United States. Their military budget exceeds Iran's by multitudes. There's definitely some disparity there. But countries are more than just their leaders, more than just a military force. There are countless people who have no interest in starting a war or continuing a conflict. There are those who would much rather live out their lives in peace, to contribute what they can to their communities, to raise their children and send them off into the world safely. They stand to gain nothing through war and lose everything when it tears through. Which is why the real winners of World War III wouldn't be confined to the ideas of nations. No. The answer to who would win World War III is this: the rich and the powerful. Those who have the power and influence to sway world events, to leverage huge amounts of capital if the conflicts go their way. Those who have the ability to put their countrymen on the line without themselves making real sacrifice. People that can use their immense wealth to retreat to safety if the going gets rough. The weapons manufacturers who profit off the murder of countless innocents, and the politicians who gain power and prestige by dehumanizing the populace of other countries, other races, other people. While the average citizens suffer and ration resources, they continue on as if war was the best thing to ever happen. These are the people who would really win, and there's nothing patriotic or nation-based about it. We're all human beings, and if World War III were to happen, we would all lose. So be kind to one another, and help those in need. Reach out to your fellow people and live in a way that you can be proud of. Understand that war is never the best option, and we can always achieve a better world by seeking out peaceful means. So, what do you think? Who would come out on top if the third official global conflict started? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.